Thanks guys for joining. Really excited to have another ElasticON in the books. More than 50 sessions, so many attendees, so many great conversations happening. We'd love to just sit down and have a little chat about some of the things that we're working on, some of the things you're excited about personally, and take it from there. Ash, for you, CEO, in the role now for a year, what are some of the things that you're hearing from customers, some of the things that you're excited about that we're working on going forward?
Yeah, it's been a great ElasticON. Just the energy, it was all virtual, but in some ways you feed off of the kinds of discussions and the kinds of sessions that you see, the innovations, the customer presentations. To me, there's a lot going on clearly, whether you talk about serverless, whether you talk about some of the query languages, you look at what's happening on the solutions. Probably the most exciting thing for me, netting it all out, is the fact that there is a lot of focus on the user. Whether it's the things that stateless Elasticsearch will enable, the fact that it reduces the complexity for the user, the focus on each of the solutions, whether it's in security or observability, to truly create these very specific, extensible, but tailor-made experiences for that particular persona. To me, that's the most interesting thing, because we are putting the user front and center in everything that we do. And I think that's going to be a big part of our journey for the foreseeable future, and that to me is massively exciting.
Oh, it's great. And in so many ways, that's what brought us here in the first place, right? Yeah. Is listening to our users and then responding. Now, Ken, for you, you're just hitting 6 months with Elastic. Yeah, what are some of the things that you're hearing that you're getting excited about in talking to customers?
Lots of things to get excited about. Certainly some of the things that Ash mentioned, the new query languages, ESQL, stateless, and serverless. Asking me what's most exciting is asking me, like, who's my favorite child? There's so many cool features coming up, new technologies. I think kind of building on something that Ash was saying, the idea that we can use this technology platform to solve these different customer use cases and to go really deep in each of these customer use cases, solve the needs of a security analyst and create an entire security platform for them, solve the needs of an SRE or DevOps professional and create an observability platform for observability professionals that's complete, from APM to logs to metrics and all of it. And the same thing for search, being able to create a developer platform for building search-powered applications. Being able to do all of that from this platform, but also make sure that we are meeting the needs of each of those customers is super exciting to me. And customers are getting excited as they're seeing us create those capabilities around their use cases and around the work that they're trying to do.
Oh, that's great. I mean, and that's been one of the sort of consistent through lines since the beginning of the company is how do we go and meet customers where they are and then build out the capabilities we need to actually solve the whole problem for them. And it started just as a platform. It started just as Elasticsearch. So Shay, from your perspective, now back in the CTO role for a year, I've been happy to see you a lot in engaging with the teams in a different way. But what's it been like for you? Where have you been focusing?
Yeah, so first of all, I'm having a lot of fun getting back my focus on the technology aspects. The place where I got drawn, I think both from at least a strategic perspective where I think I can make the biggest impact is to Elasticsearch, but also I admit on a romantic level, if you will, because this is where things started, for me at least. And the areas that we're doing at Elasticsearch, the thing that I'm really excited about is how much innovation is still being driven just to Elasticsearch. If you're looking at the work that we're doing in vector search, the contribution that we make to Apache Lucene, the ability to bring it into Elasticsearch, the ability to import PyTorch models from Hugging Face or the ones that you trained yourself, being able to manage them and use them in various ways, like that's an exciting part of the work that we're doing in Elasticsearch. The work that we're doing on time series data, making sure that it's more efficient in storage, making sure that it's going to be faster. The work that we're doing in stateless Elasticsearch, the challenge of decoupling compute from storage in a search engine is a big one. It's not trivial. And I'm very excited about the work that we're doing. There's still a lot of like low-level questions that we're asking ourselves, right? Like how can we be smart around fetching data? How can we build the data structure in a better way to be able to still be able to access S3, but in a fast way? And I think the other one that was mentioned is ESQL. Have a query language that to a degree is similar to what we've done with our schema, right? Our our ECS, our Elastic Common Schema, have a query language that is shareable, have a query language that have expressiveness through its textual representation, and being able to go and share it and use it across the board. Those things have major impacts. They make Kibana simpler, the ability to build the visualizations, a much more pleasant experience. They make the solutions much more impactful because you can use, for example, a single query language across all of our solutions, from security threats to metrics to APM data to logs to items on your e-commerce website, because you want to be able to use queries better on them. So I think the impact and the innovation that goes into Elasticsearch is significant, and I'm super excited about that.
Yeah. And I think that's the kind of investment. Almost every single thing that you listed benefits not just one use case or one area, it's those kinds of platform capabilities. It's making the base better that benefits every one of the different use cases or scenarios. Yep. One of the other things that's like that we touched on briefly was serverless. So Ash, from your perspective, when you're thinking about serverless and what this is going to let us do as a company, how we can help our customers in a different way, what stands out to you as sort of the drivers? Or is this for existing use cases? Or are we going to meet new customers in this way? How do you think about it?
I think it's going to be both. I mean, so to me, probably the most interesting thing about serverless, and when we think about the stateless architecture that underpins what we are looking at, what we're building, fundamentally it reduces the complexity for our users. And Elastic has always had this wonderful ability to be highly extensible. I mean, at the end of the day, we are an amazing search analytics platform. You can use us in so many different ways. But what we want to enable for our users is the ability for them to get data into this platform and then use our platform for building the kinds of applications to satisfy the kinds of use cases that really matter to them. It could be anything from security to observability to all kinds of custom search use cases. But you don't want them to be spending energy and effort in configuring things, in just setting things up, in worrying about how it scales up, how it scales down, et cetera. And the more we can do to reduce that complexity for them, the better it's going to be for them to just get started. You're reducing effectively the hurdle, the bar that it takes to get started with Elastic and then get effective with Elastic. And that's something that is relevant for everybody, new customers, existing customers, what have you. But having said that, what I firmly believe is there are lots of use cases where you might have the need to effectively have the ability to scale in a very bursty way for workloads that might not be it's a steady state, if you will, or you might have ephemeral workloads. And for all of those, today, the effort that it takes to get set up with Elastic, even in the cloud, is non-trivial. So that's an amazing opportunity. The last thing I'd say is, this with serverless and with stateless Elasticsearch, there are opportunities for us to really present our user experience in such a way that's even more tailor-made for the solutions use cases that we have, whether it be security or observability. So I think it's gonna really serve multiple purposes. It's gonna expand the aperture of use cases that we as a company, we as a community can go target. But it's also gonna make life generally easy for our users, and that is exciting. That to me is like the most important thing that we can do, continually make it easier for people to use our product. That's what excites me the most.
Oh, that's great. And I think that is, that's the goal, right? Is to make it easier for folks to be successful with the products.
Exactly.
So Ken, one of the things that we hear a lot is, and I've seen us investing a lot in over the years, is the broader area of observability. Yeah. But I still hear some people talk about Elastic as just for logs. How do you think about Elastic in the observability space?
We started in logs, and everyone knows Elastic is sort of the premier log analytics platform. But we've actually developed a complete observability product suite, including APM with distributed tracing, including metrics, including synthetic monitoring, which we just launched, which allows you to do synthetic monitors that ping your applications from outside. And we also launched profiling. So you have distributed profiling so that you can have flame graphs and profiling information so you can figure out where the performance bottlenecks are in your application. But the coolest thing is you can do it without instrumenting your code. So with universal profiling from Elastic, you don't have to instrument your code. You can put it anywhere and it'll run on any application, any language. and just constantly be getting you information about the performance of your application. All these things create additional signals for how you can evaluate the performance and uptime and availability of your application, whether it's metrics or logs or profile, different signals. But the cool thing about Elastic is we also provide the ML capabilities so that you can figure out correlations between those signals, so that you can look for causation of errors, so that you can look across logs, you can look across metrics, you can look across distributed tracing and find issues quicker, faster, and hopefully remediate your issues and give your customers better uptime.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think the combination of ML plus these different signals is pretty powerful.
Yeah, and that's what I'm hearing too in a lot of the conversations where people start with logs and then they add another signal type. They start implementing tracing. They start to add, collect metrics from the services or the systems, and suddenly they've got a much brighter picture of what's going on in their environment.
Yeah, Steve, can I just add to that? I've had now multiple conversations with customers that use us for observability. And there's one aspect that always strikes me, which is when our customers who appreciate the fact that we're fundamentally a data platform, they start to use us for observability, they recognize that they can solve new use cases that they can't with any other observability solution because we are a data platform. They can bring any kind of data into our platform, correlate it together. I was talking to a customer who was telling me, this is a financial services customer, was telling me about the fact that it's basically they see observability as 1,000 points of light. There's information from different sources, whether it's traces, whether it's metrics, whether it's logs. They wanted to be able to know what is the performance that their most important users are experiencing on their mobile apps. Now, most important customers, that's business data. You're trying to correlate your observability data with your user IDs, your customer IDs, segmented by a particular segment of what they consider to be important customers. In any other solution, that would mean you're taking your observability data out of the platform onto some other data warehousing solution, bringing your business data in there, trying to do the correlation. That's a mess. That's an extremely complex situation. With Elastic, you get observability your way, right? So we have out-of-the-box workflows, dashboards, alerts, cases, all of that. But the ability for you to track your end customer journey and have observability that way, bring in all kinds of business data, that is extraordinarily compelling. And that's that extensibility of the platform that Shay built. When he romanticizes about Elasticsearch, I can see why, because it is what lets all of this happen. And to me, that is putting the customer front and center and solving even the problems that they thought never could be solved in such an elegant way.
It's an important point. It's one of the things I first noticed is the customers they push the boundaries of what the platform's capable of and constantly come up with new ways of using it. Even beyond, we can create an observability product, but they can drop down to the underlying platform and extend it because of the open data architecture. So they can use it to observe an assembly line. They can use it to observe things that we wouldn't have imagined as a product team. We can create the APIs and the interface, but they can extend it beyond that.
Yeah, I love to call that there's no edge of the map with the solutions, right? It's a fun way to think about it. Sean, one of the areas we've invested a lot in, and I think we're finally seeing the fruits of years of investment, is in the kind of classic search and relevance use cases, right? You mentioned vector search earlier as one of those areas, but this is something that I think becomes increasingly important for a big part of our customer base. What are some of the other areas in there that you're thinking about for search users, people building applications on top of Elasticsearch?
So I think there's a set of tools that are focused around vector search that, to be honest, are built for experts. They are probably mostly only vector-based databases that experts or large companies that can build multiple models for many different dimensions can do. Most of our search customers, and I think the thing that made Elasticsearch successful and Apache Lucene is the freedom and the flexibility and the ease of use that people could have. You put data in, guess what? Everything gets indexed by default. Sometimes I have to remind myself how different this is, right? It's like, think about taking a document with 100 attributes, putting it into a database, and telling your DBA or database administrator that you're going to index 100 columns. They'll throw you out of the building. We do that by default. And because we do it by default, it gives flexibility around how people explore data, unstructured data, structured data, moving unstructured data to become structured data. And that's something that we focused on when we try to develop our vector search capability. First of all, I'm very happy that obviously we contributed and had heavy investments in Apache Lucene, and then taking that investment and putting it into Elasticsearch, again, in free, in the open, and being able to then build it in a layered fashion. And what do I mean by that? In order to not have an edge to the map, to a degree, you have to allow customers to have an amazing experience in a more packaged way, but if they want to roll up their sleeves or they're reaching the limits of it, they can drop down. And then if they reach another limit, they can drop down. If you want to go and use just the vector engine, you can. If you want to build something on top of it, then you can build your own model using something like PyTorch and import it into Elastic, and we build all the orchestration and the framework around it to be able to manage it. If you want to go and then go another layer up and being able to import from Hugging Face or other places, we will build that level of flexibility. Actually, if you want to have some models built in, because guess what? Not everybody are experts and they know how to build their own models. We can provide some models out of the box. Now, they might not be as good as you building your model on top of your own data sets, but they might be good enough and already better than what you're doing today. So those are the tiers and the levels that I think we need to provide. And the thing that we need to maintain and remember is that flexibility, the ability to go and filter based on a geolocation, by a price range, by a user-entered free-form query, and then get relevant results using vector search. I think that's a very powerful notion. We're not completely there yet, but that's the vision that we want to go to, and I think that will help make vector search much more relevant to the 99% users of Elasticsearch, and those are the ones that we care about. By the way, that's not only search. That's going to be relevant in security. That's going to be relevant in observability. That's going to be relevant in geo-based use cases. That's the exciting part about it.
That's great. And I think that idea of sort of progressive disclosure of complexity, I think that applies across all of the solutions. When you have that custom need, you can always drop one level deeper, go a little deeper, work a little harder, but get that capability within the same system. I think that's something that's very unique about Elastic. Well, I think we're reaching the end of the time here. Maybe one last question for fun. There's a lot of talk in the industry at large about ChatGPT. What do you think of the effect of ChatGPT on the search market? Ash, Ken?
I think we should look at providing an OpenAI or GPT-3 interface, something we should look at together with enterprise search. If we could run those models for you, if we could provide that as a service, it might be an interesting integration. So something for us to look at.
Yeah, whether it's running those models or even having API-based access, if you want to tweak the models, if you want to, there are ways in which I know the enterprise search team is already looking at opportunities for how we incorporate some of that. To me, just on a personal level, it's just fascinating, right? It's my 14-year-old seems to be very excited about it because I think he figured out that it can in very almost human-sounding terms, allow him to write some responses to his history questions. I am absolutely scared of that possibility because you know that if there's that service, then there's going to be another service that helps you check whether somebody plagiarized or used ChatGPT when they shouldn't. So it's an interesting area.
Helps you get around that.
That's right. That's right. But it's look, there are potentially relevant use cases for search. I don't know whether there's anything in security, but I think this is a brand new world. I know that the smarter people in the company than me are actively thinking about this, so I'm excited about that.
Yeah, the rate of change in the industry only continues to increase.
That's right.
The thing that I'm excited about it is that it brings almost like the beauty of a text interface to the foreground. Obviously, eventually there will be images, and you see that happening as well in different areas. And I think it also emphasizes the power of unstructured data and the process of making unstructured data useful. And that's exciting because that's a big part of what search does. That's why I personally I love logs because it allows developers to express themselves. sometimes in a very creative way, like how the hell did we get there? Log message. If we get here, then it's a bug. I've written some of those myself. But like that's the exciting part, and like that's the beauty of logs, and I think that's why Elasticsearch became so successful. The ability to marry together structured and unstructured data together and being able to analyze it. And I think there's a lot of opportunity for us in this space with the vector search and models that I mentioned and other areas. I love it because I think it brings to the foreground the beauty of search as an interface, the beauty of a search box. And I think that more people get trained on it, more people will know just how to use Elastic for threat hunting and for other stuff.
You know what's going to happen next, right? Every single person is going to go to our public repo and look for how the hell did we get here search message.
Where's that log message?
That has been fixed.
It has. I can confirm. Well, great. Look, guys, thank you so much for taking the time after what I know has been a long day. Appreciate it, and thanks again for putting together such a wonderful ElasticON.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you, community.